Hi, folks. Welcome back. So, we are starting chapter 13 in the Gendered Society. Chapter 13 is the gendered body, and um, this means that we have one more chapter left in the semester. Yep, it's almost done, folks. So, let's get into it. So, when we think of the gendered body, we're thinking of our bodies as either our own private possessions or as collections of biological impulses. But nothing could be more gendered than these individual private experiences. This is where uh, where the gender rubber hits the road. Um, we are socially constructing ourselves in reference to the gender cues that we're receiving from society, but we're seeing more and more the physical manifestation of what the structure's doing to us over time. People are much more likely to express their gender identity physically these days than they have in the past. Many gender asymmetries or gender differences were hidden, but we're seeing people express themselves in different ways in the 21st century. As we know, the attitudes about the body vary across cultures. Um, some cultures are more familiar and more comfortable with nudity. Um, I can imagine many of us saw the old National Geographic videos of tribes in Africa where women were walking around with their breasts uncovered, and it just seemed natural for them. Whereas in our society, women are not allowed to walk around with their breasts uncovered. It's deemed unnatural. Um, uh, some Muslim societies, women are not allowed to uncover their bodies at all because um, the the visual manifestation of their beauty would be so much, too much for men um, to handle, and they just couldn't control themselves. So women have to be covered. So we see different representations of how gender is represented through our physical appearance throughout different cultures. Naomi Wolf talks about the beauty myth, which is this unrealistic cultural idea of feminine beauty, and how this myth tends to trap women in cycles of diets, beauty aids, and cosmetics. Uh, Young women, young girls, and young women especially are aspiring to be uh, what the media represents as beautiful. And that image has changed over time. And as women gain more power, um, and we saw we've seen the textbook and some of the videos that we've watched over the course of the semester. They've talked about how as women gain more power in society, their physical form is decreasing. So Marilyn Monroe was a size 12 and was considered beautiful. Marilyn Monroe today would be considered obese. To be beautiful in today's society, you're talking about a size 6. And the smaller women get, so what we want is smaller waist size, a well-defined butt, and large breasts. Well, that's hard to do. It's almost physically impossible. Yet women are striving to accomplish this, and it's really causing some problems for them in reference to anxiety disorders like bulimia and anorexia, where women are literally starving themselves and vomiting to regulate their weight. And many women that suffer from these disorders are extremely thin, and they can continue to construct themselves as being overweight, all in an effort to try and capture this unrealistic cultural idea of feminine beauty. Men are also impacted by these types of disorders. Even though they are the creators of women's beauty myths, we still suffer from our own problems. One being muscle dysmorphia, the belief that one is too small and not muscular enough. This is something that I suffered from when I was a kid, right? I've always been one of the smaller. I was always the smallest on the field. I was always the smallest on the playground. I was always the smallest in my class, and even the smallest in my class in boot camp. But I thought that, and I was buying into the way my culture and my media was constructing masculinity. I thought that what women wanted was a big muscular guy, and that was just something that was very hard for me to be. And I always felt that I was inadequate in reference to the guys that were bigger than me in school, and they could grow a beard, and they just looked older. That's what I thought women wanted. And ultimately, when I joined the armed services, that impacted the decision of which service I chose to go into. And I chose to go into the United States Marine Corps, which, of course, is, as many would say, the most manly of the armed services. And for when asked why I chose the Marines, I always make reference to this idea that if I could make it through the Marines, then I truly was a man. As terrible as that sounds, it's just the way it was. So I understand where this idea that one is too small and not muscular enough comes from. And we saw the increase in size of G.I. Joe from the 1970s to the early 2000s. 22-inch or 28-inch waist and literally 22-inch arms. That's impossible, folks. And this struggle to try and accomplish these overinflated, hyper masculine forms is as problematic as women trying to become thinner and thinner and thinner. They also say that 43% of men are not happy with their bodies. They're either too small and want to be big, or they're too big and they want to be small. And they never quite find the place that they want to be. And men are also suffering from food disorders, and steroid use is on the rise, has been for about the last 20 years. And it's an attempt for men to marry up to this hypermasculine gender form, but using drugs to get there. Another thing that we see a lot of, and this is something I talk about a lot with my own social networks, is the rise in tattoos. Tattoos, when I was a kid, were not popular, and the only types of people that had tattoos were predominantly men, and they were men that represented two populations, either bikers or armed servicemen. It was really all you didn't see tattoos on pretty much anybody else. But today, you see an increase in tattoos on gay men, lesbians, bisexuals. They tattoo themselves as a way to express who they actually are, let people know who they are, so you can meet up with somebody easier in a society that might force you to hide some of your gender differences. What we also see today is that men and women are equally likely to have tattoos. And uh, so those who have tattoos are changing um, with the changing social norms and values of society. We're also seeing a rise in cosmetic surgeries. Most common cosmetic procedures have increased by almost 500% since, from 1992 to 2007. I'm sure that percentages went up. Facials like facelifts and eyelids are probably your most common. Liposuction, breast reductions or augmentation, penile enlargements, genital reconstruction. They can do just about anything these days, folks. The hymenoplasty, I was shocked. You can actually have a hymen reconstructed. So if you're going to be married and you have been deflowered, well, you can recreate the flower. Or, what better to get for your 40-year-old husband? What does every 40-year-old man want? Well, he wants to have sex with a virgin. So why don't I go out and get a hymen reconstructed so my husband can experience what it feels like to have intercourse with a virgin. Crazy. Penile enlargement. I found that kind of interesting, that those that get penile enlargement, you most only receive an enlargement when your penis is flaccid. So you're not getting it so it improves your use of your penis. Like if you think, well, women just like larger penises, you're not really going to get that much of an enlargement when your penis is erect. So really what you're getting it for is when you're in those places when you're standing next to another male, maybe a male shower in a locker room, or you're standing next to somebody in a public bathroom where you might see one's penis. So I found that kind of interesting as well. And then, of course, the one that really made me cringe was the Chinese women who are literally having their legs extended. The process breaks their tibia. A metal rod is inserted into the tibia, and then over many months, their legs are stretched up to 4 inches. And they feel as if this is being sought after because Chinese media has emphasized beauty in the women that are shown in the media as being taller. And so Chinese women are literally having their legs stretched to meet up to these media forms. Talk about this unrealistic cultural feminine form that is impossible to attain.